Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Tuesday. It's November the 18th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And pretty much uptrend all day long. We had a shorter term uptrend here earlier, then we corrected and bounced off this midline in the upper half. And it turns out there's just a two-tiered trading range, and this was just a temporary. When I posted the midday chart this morning, we didn't have enough price action to really know that this was here. But as this continued to chop up, it was obvious there was something there. And if you just kind of drew this off the top, um, those first couple of swings there and drug it down, of course, that's where it bounces. But then you were able to find the midpoint, and it fit pretty good through there on the upper side here and on the lower side here. So you may not have got this till later in the day, late morning, but it was there. Not a lot of entries today. I only marked them through 1 o'clock hour. Really, there's no entries in here. Um, you really don't want to. There's a failed second entry long there that you might have considered shorting, but I just think it's too risky shorting up in here in a trend day like this. You need to wait. And so just not much happening after 1 o'clock unless you wanted to wait until after 2:30. All this started after 2:30, and it's really too late to be trading then. But we did have a nice downtrend sell off here. But I just think it's too risky to be shorting because there's no real break of this major trend till right at the 3 o'clock hour. And so anyway, let's talk about the trades. I'm doing this a little late this evening, um, and we'll wrap it up. But starting out, we looked like we were in a trading range here, and notice what happened here. You had you tested this a couple of times across here. I actually had this right here originally, I think, and I moved it down when these closes happened here. But notice how we tested it once, we tested it twice, so it's like the double test rule. This is a trading range. You figure it's going to go to the low. Notice this signal bar is. Let me make this a little bigger. The signal bar is not very good here. So if you entered this one, you probably had to use a limit order. If you had, if it was an easy trade, you'd been out pretty quickly. But if you didn't use a limit order and you used a stop, which if you had hopefully you got a little better entry than me. But if you use the stop, once you started getting into this overlap, I would have taken what it would give you. Um, I think it was a 4-tick failure if you entered on a stop below this bar right here. So, um, but when this didn't end as a close on its low, that's a little bit questionable. And so what I did was I just used a limit order. Fairly easy to get in there that way. I went back and forth about whether or not to make that one green. But that's like we've tested that. That's like the double test rule, and they're usually pretty reliable, but you need a good signal bar, and you really don't have one there. So, and then once this didn't go lower here, and you got this next one here, you definitely don't want to go short below that bar, even though it's hanging right in there in that same area. You probably would have moved that down, and then you get what could have been a signal bar here. But no, you should have drawn this trend line by now, and you notice it's kind of bouncing off that trend line. And if it would have broke below that bar, you might have considered going short, but it didn't. It reversed and went higher. So now you've got, notice the new low, first entry pullback. There's a failed second entry short there. And so that's acting like a breakout pullback long. So I like that to the long side. They trapped everybody to the short side and look at it go. And they just ran all the stops and ran it up. There's another entry right here, and you could really, the reason I like this one is because this is your breakout pullback short, and it tried to go lower again. So it's almost like it tried to go lower twice and turned up, and we weren't quite at the highs of where you would expect this to probably be here. I mean, this could have been a little lower. You didn't have a whole lot of price action, I guess, so looking at it like that, you might have thought. But the fact that it moved out higher here is when you definitely would have wanted to move this up. So you probably wouldn't have had that there. So thinking about it like that, but I've got it right off that top, and it catches right off. Notice how that closed right there. That's how you want it to look. And And so that left you a lot of room in there. And so that's another reason I like that one. But that might have been a little hard to see at the time if you're not really good at drawing these lines. Um, could have been questionable. But really, what I liked about it was when you break out, you generally are going to come back and get a retest. And it tried twice, and so it's like a failed second entry short. It's like that little trap, and that's the main reason I liked it. Even if you didn't have this line here, it's a reason to think about taking that trade. And so that's why I liked it mainly because what normally happens when you break out of a range, you're going to come back and retested. It tried once and then twice and failed and took off. And so, and notice right where it found resistance, right at the top of the line when it touches that one. And it kind of works. It tries to go lower once, tries to go lower twice, and then it tries to go lower again. And so, and at this point, you probably wouldn't have had this line here. You would have drawn these off of this. Um, but if you had that, I would be real risky going short there. But again, it's like a failed second entry short. It's almost a similar pattern as this, except you didn't back up as much. Excuse me. It's a little double bottom. This is like a little trading range. It's like a breakout pullback long, and you've got all this movement to the upside. If you had this line in place, that would have been really questionable. So that's why I made it green. But it is another trap, and everything was working higher. So it was probably, it was worth having. And I was really at that point, I was looking at um, this channel working up, and so that's what I was playing it off of. And then obviously you reverse up here, and you're working down, and you're inside this, and you get a little bit of a break there, but that's so close. But then you get a definite close outside, a move to a new low, and it reverses. Um, there's a second entry long there, but obviously you know you don't want to take that. It's not very good, a not very good one, and it's still inside this little channel. We're correcting. Um, but now you close outside, you move down to a new low, and look how bearish, and that catches people off guard. And it's not a great setup. It's not a bad setup, but it's not a great one. It's a little bit aggressive, but I like that trade. Those are the ones that usually take off. And then it pulls back again. It goes above the EMA, pulls back again, and takes off again. So that's like a second entry counting off that low. And that's the one you probably would have wanted to take. And you get another little bit of a breakout pullback long here, but you hadn't reached that high yet. And you see what happens when you reach it and you pull back. And it was tempting to go long here, but it's a first entry. It's not a very good signal bar. If you wait on this signal bar, there's not much room before that double top. So I think you just got to skip that. And then even though this went higher here, let me show you this. It's like a little two-legged pullback, and it's a failed second entry short. You got a double bottom, so that's like a new low, 1, 2. So it's like a failed second entry short. So I like that one. It didn't take off like you would think it would. So you might have wanted to scratch this one and take a tick or two, because you can see several times you could have taken a tick or two. And so you might have wanted to scratch that one, but when it broke lower right there and failed and reversed again, and then you got a little two-legged pullback to the EMA. And look how it skipped. I'm always talking about how it does those midlines. Look how it closed. It didn't trade through that line. Don't ask me why it does that. I've got some theories on it, but there's something to that. So just pay attention to it. It usually tells you your line's in the right place. And so that's a little questionable, but I liked it anyway because it's a little two-legged pullback to the EMA, the midline, and it goes higher again. And by that time, you should have been thinking too. I forgot to talk about this. I usually show this first, but you got a measured leg, and this is your correction in the middle. And so you're looking for prices to trade way up here, and you see you still got a long way to go. We didn't quite make it, but that's because we hit the resistance side again. So, but that would have been enough to keep you in this thing till you hit the upper side again. And that was the last one that I marked. Actually, I take that back. We were talking about this one. and then you move up. And this one's kind of questionable, but again, this is like a little two-legged pullback, and we aren't quite to this line, so that's the reason I like that one. It's a little bitty doji. It's a real low-risk entry, and look at it bouncing right off that midline again. It's kind of a low-risk entry. Um, you never got a second entry on that one. It just took off, so um, if you didn't take this one, you didn't get a chance to enter it. So, but that was pretty much it for the day. It's all uphill. And so that really makes these green ones not quite as aggressive, but they're still aggressive because there's just not a lot of room to the highs. But when you start to see a lot of little bitty bars that are overlapping, look at the little dojis all mixed in there. They just keep going in one direction. It doesn't look like it, but that's a strong trend. And this thing started about 4 in the morning, and it didn't end till almost 2 o'clock. So almost the whole trading overnight and almost the whole trading. That's a strong trend, even though it doesn't look like it. So these little lines we've gotten into the next day, or those lines wouldn't be there. So they would be somewhere else during the day. They've moved. So you have to overlook that for now. I don't want to take them off and put them back on. So, but that's what I saw today. Not much else you can say about it. It's just a nice uptrend. It's the kind you want to see. I like these kind of days, and they can be deceiving because they don't look that strong because of all the little bars and you get a lot of overlap and stuff. But these are generally strong days, so when you recognize this kind of movement, just trust it and go with it if you get the setup, even though it may not look perfect. If you get a good setup, go with it. And generally you don't back up a whole lot, so they're good entry. They're good times to enter on little small bars with small risk. And so what if you get stopped out for 2 or 3 ticks a couple of times? If you can catch a couple of them and get a runner or two, it doesn't matter. So anyway, something to think about. But I'm going to wrap it up for the day. A little short tonight, but I'm getting this done late and I'm ready to get out of here. So that'll some other things going on. But hope you had a good trading day, and we'll be back to do it again tomorrow. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.